Hey everyone, my name is David Rao, and I am the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, on Facebook, on Patreon, on Pinterest, a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. Today, I'm going to be talking about what I do with my older grades when I have to introduce 16th and 8th note combinations. So like T ticka or ticka T, how I do that, and the beginning activities I do. And I'm going to try and be a little bit fancy with technology. That always works. It never works. In fact, I just tried streaming on Facebook, and Facebook was like, nope, nope, nope. So I don't know, it might work. We're going to try it. But anyway, I'm going to share some of the things that I do and how I do that. So that's coming up in just a second. If you hear about a resource, a blog post, something you're really interested in, and I'm talking about in this video, I put a link to that on my links page, which is on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org, under the video tab, or just wherever you're watching or listening to this, click the caption. It should be right there, a link to take you to that links page. There are workshops coming up. I just got back this weekend from a workshop in Salt Lake City with the Utah ORF chapter. It was so much fun. And it was exciting to share about critical thinking in ORF Schulberg with Utah ORF chapter. But another big exciting training that's coming up in April is with the Forney Independent School District, Forney ISD in Forney, Texas. It's a free workshop. It's sponsored by West Music. It is free, but you have to register, and the registration opens next Monday. So I have a link on my links page about that, where you can go and learn all about that, where it is, what's going to happen, all the sorts of stuff that's coming up. And then registration opens next Monday. And speaking of registration, if you are interested in learning more and you really want to invest, and you've taken ORF Level 1, I'm doing ORF Level 2 this summer at the University of Missouri St. Louis. Registration is open for that, but sort of limited because level 2s are a little bit smaller generally than levels 1. So if you're thinking about it and you're interested, we do offer housing, and you can hang out with all of us. It's going to be so much fun. And I don't know, St. Louis is known for some really amazing foods like gooey butter cake and toasted ravioli. Basically nothing healthy, but it's very fun, very good. And they have these amazing root beer floats at Fitz's. Anyway, if you're even thinking about it and you want me to send you food pictures, I'm happy to do so, of places we ate last year. Okay, so before we talk about how to introduce 16th and 8th note combinations, we should talk about rhythm syllable systems, and then why you might even want to introduce 16th and 8th note combinations, because both of those are important. So the rhythm syllable system you choose to use in your classroom is up to you, or maybe your district chooses, or maybe you don't use one, I don't know. But there are a variety of systems you can use. They all have their own merits. They all have their own setbacks and things that make them a little bit tricky. I wrote a blog post called Rhythm Syllable Systems, What to Use and Why, many years ago, but the systems haven't changed. So if you're interested, you're like, I'm thinking about changing my rhythm syllable system, or why I might do that, you can check out that blog post. I hope it's helpful, and it gives descriptions and examples and ideas. And I'll tell you about which one I use, and then you can make your decision about whatever rhythm syllable system you like. But if you're like, rhythm syllable system, what are you talking about? If someone's reading a rhythm, reading quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, and they say like ta, 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 and they're saying something like that, that's a rhythm syllable. We're just adding in a non, just a made up word basically to fill in for that rhythm. There are various ones. You could say like ta ta ti ti ta ti 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 ticka ticka ta, or ti 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 tiri tiri ta. Those are very common if you have Kodai training, or if you grew up doing rhythm syllable systems. Those are both very common. The ti ti ticka ticka, that's like one thing on its own. You might have heard people say do day do day do day do, right? That's one that was originated with it's the Gordon syllable system, so music learning theory. It's sort of been adopted by a lot of people in the fire robin world. So that's another different version. The one that I happen to use is ta ta di takadimi ta. Takadimi ta di takadimi ta. It's a Takadimi system. I think it originated in Ithaca College. But like I said, go to that blog post if you want to like delve a little further into the like why you would choose each one. there are merits and there are setbacks for each one. And I think that Takadimi works best for me. Again, my classroom, my thought, it works best for me and my classroom up into a point. And this is the point where it gets a little confusing. I don't think that it is confusing when used in practice, but when we get to 8th and 16th combinations, that's when it gets a little bit iffy for kids, where it's a little trickier for kids. And you'll see why in just a second. Why even use a syllable system? Well, it makes it much simpler for students when they're reading through new things. Is if you say like one and one e and a two, 1, 2 and 3 e and a 4, that's another syllable system. I mean, it's another way to read rhythms, right? And oftentimes that's used in secondary settings for band or orchestra or something like that. And that's great if you are able to track along and reset at every measure, right? And that's really honestly something that older kids can do. But finding your place in the measure and finding your place relative to the beginning of the bar line and knowing where those beats are, that is much trickier for younger students. Just because you're asking them to do it in time, you're asking them to do it while dealing with other factors. It is tricky, and it requires more brain power and more thinking skills than most of our younger students have. So when you're thinking about, should I use a rhythm syllable system? I know people who are like, yeah, but my kindergarten, I can get them to do it. They can use the number system. Sure, they can do it. Is it developmentally appropriate? I would argue no. There are a lot of things that with time and patience and frustration, I could get a kindergartner to do, while there are many other things that are maybe more simple for them to do. So can younger kids use numbers? Maybe. What I suggested. Me personally, no. So anyway, that's why I use a rhythm syllable system. I personally choose Takadimi. I could do a whole blog post or a whole video about why, but that's not the point of this one. So we'll move on. So 18th notes, 16th note combinations. I'm going to try and get fancy here with my technology. We'll see if it works. It worked earlier, so let's find out. Okay. Nope, it's not working right now. See, this is what happens when I try and get fancy. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it to go here. See, this is, like I said, I was trying to make it work. It didn't want to work. Let's see if it'll work now. Oh. Oh, nope. Oh, cool. Sorry, and I just got kicked out of Instagram. Sorry about that. Okay, so, all right, now I can be fancy. Let me change this over Instagram so you all can see this. Like I said, technology is so great when it works, and it doesn't always want to work. Okay. So, sorry, Instagram. The easiest way is for you to just see my screen. So, we're talking about 16th note and 16th, 8th combinations. This is what I mean. Is when you have, here we go, like a set of rhythms that is like an 8th note and 16th notes together, right? So like that one in my syllable system would be ta-di-mi. Or you might say the redone the other way, takadi. That would be in my syllable system. That's what I would say, right? Why even do these at all? Do we use these all that often in elementary music? No. If they're going to go on to band or choir or something or orchestra in middle school, are they going to use these? Eventually, yes. But you all know that band teachers, beginning band teachers, start with whole notes and half notes. So like the application point for this, like we might use and apply this, right? Maybe, but will they use it right away or at all in applied settings in secondary? I would say no, not for a while, right? Not for a long time. Maybe the percussionists, right? But like probably not your flute or clarinet or trumpet players. They can't do the tonguing for that. They're not going to do 16th notes for a long time. So is it even worth teaching? I don't know. Maybe, maybe it is if we think we're the endpoint for music education for our students, or maybe if we think we just want them to know it, or maybe you are going to apply this a lot, maybe. But is this something that you could probably maybe skip? probably, maybe, I don't know. I mean, this is up to you. This is a you philosophy moment and a you decision moment. But if you are going to teach them, let's talk about how you might do it. So with my students, and like I said, I'm trying to be fancy with my iPad here. With my students, I sort of approach it like this. I like to think about where we have to start. So a couple prerequisites, right? Like if we're going to do 16th and 8th note combinations, first of all, students have to be able to read 16th notes, right? Like that's non-negotiable. They must, because if you're going to take that skill and rework it and reapply it, they need to know 16th notes to begin with. So I would say that's an important thing that you start with that. They have lots and lots and lots and lots of exposure of just seeing 16th notes in this set of 4, right? Like the most typical set of 4 being together 16th notes. They need to know that, right? Like that's a prerequisite. I would say the other thing that they should know before they play and dabble with this is they need to know eighth notes with a flag. And also that's like the saddest, like my theory teachers be so sad. There we go. Okay. Eighth notes with a flag. And I would say that this is something you can do early. I do this very early, actually. And our curriculum at my district says that flagged eighth notes happen in 2nd grade. So when my students, like they know eighth notes, right? So we learn those, I think, in 1st grade. And then in 2nd grade, we just talk about briefly how you could do them with flags instead. And that, yes, they are almost always beamed together. You almost always are going to see them beamed together for now, right? For my 2nd graders, I can say you will always see them beamed together. But like ultimately, they should know that it actually when we talk about it, we say eighth notes, but all the others we say quarter note, half note. What does an eighth note look like? A single. And so then we talk about the flags and I show them. And my favorite moment is on my vocabulary wall, I have a set of beamed eighth notes and I flip it up, and underneath I have another separate vocabulary card for single eighth note, and they all gasp. And I was like, yes, I've been hiding this from you for so long. But anyway, so they see the single eighth note, and we learn it early on in like 2nd grade. And then I show them something like this where I say like, okay, if I wanted to, oh my gosh, see, it just takes so long to do that when instead I could, let me do with the beans. It's much easier to do with the beans, and it's a little bit clearer, easier to see. So that's why we beam them together most of the time. And at that point in 2nd grade, we just like leave it and are done, right? So when we talk about the flags, you have to be able to do that. So then after 2nd grade, they know that the flag is an option. They know they can do that. That sets you up for being able to do syncopation and stuff later. But they know that the eighth note can float. But that it always sticks together with another eighth note. That's what I tell them in 2nd grade. Later, that changes. But they know that the eighth note can be on a flag and can move. And then also the cool thing about that is that like you can say like all the time when you see music represented, like when somebody wants an icon about music, a lot of times it's an eighth note with a flag or it's a treble clef, right? Like, so I just show them like these are the 2 things that when people talk about music, like even some of my 2nd and 1st grade teachers on their like visual schedule for the day, when they have music, they have a single eighth note as like the icon for music. And so when kids learn what that is, even though they're not really using it, applying all that much, they know what it is and we can talk about it and they can identify it. So that's a reason to do single eighth notes so early. But when you get to teaching 16th notes, at some point, probably right away, I would say, they learn 16th notes, we do 16th notes, and I say, okay, but also you remember eighth notes can be flagged, so can 16th notes. You can flag those, and you can have them separate. You could have, 2 together. Instead of all 4 together, you could do 2 together. I mean, like you can have them in different combinations, but most often, almost all the time, when you're in this class, you're going to see them together in sets of 4, almost always. Okay, so that's all the groundwork. Those are like the prerequisite of what we know before we ever start. By the way, if you're like, what program are you using on your iPad? I am using a program called Sketches. It was free through my district. It has, yes, all these cool little tools and stuff. It used to be called Sketches School, and I think it got bought out. I'll try and track down what it is. If you're interested, it works really well as a, I can work on my iPad and I can project it on my screen. I love that. Okay, so prerequisites are they must know 16th notes, they must know flagged 8th notes, and flagged 16th notes, I would probably say. So then going into this conversation, I would say to kids, okay, you know we can do 16th notes in sets of 4, right? And most often, okay, hold on, I put this in the wrong order. Okay, I'm going to just move that over. Okay, you know we can do 8th notes, usually being together in groups of 2, right? And you know that we can do 16th notes most of the time being together in sets of 4, right? So you've got 8th notes, you got 16th notes, but you also know they can break apart and you can do them with flags. So if I wanted, I could break apart these sets of 8th notes, these 2 8th notes, and I could put them together with 2 flagged 8th notes. I could do the same with the 16th notes, but it's going to take me forever to redraw them. So I'm just going to cut them in half here, and I'm just going to have 2 16th notes together and 2 more 16th notes together. Now the cool thing is, if I wanted, like when I go out to eat, I don't want to get just the one thing. I don't want just a sandwich. I don't want just some chips. I want a combo. I want a combo platter. I want a little bit of this and a little bit of that, okay? And so that's what I'm doing with my notes here. I'm going to take an 8th note, and I'm going to take, hold on, let me undo that. Let me just show you. I'm going to pull, let me change my color here so you can see better. I'm going to pull down my 8th note, okay? My 1/8 note. If I take that, and when we say 8th notes, we say ta-dee, ta-dee, ta-dee. So if I'm taking this 8th note, which one did I take? I took the ta. Okay, so I'm leaving D up there for later, but I took the ta. Okay, and then, when we read 16th notes, we call it, oops, I can't write above that, sorry. We have ta, ka, di, mi. Well, I'm going to take the di, mi, and I'm going to put it down here. And now, you know what, let me just connect those. So now I have the ta of tadi and the dimi of takadimi, and that makes a tadimi. And so when I explain it, I sort of show that, like, okay, here are the sets you already know. We're going to break them apart. I'm going to pull one from here and one from here, and I'm going to squeeze them together. It makes tadimi. I do the same thing with takadi, where let me change my color again to, I don't know, orange or yellow, whatever that is. Okay, but now I got to think about it in a different order. So if I'm doing it now, I would need to start with a taka, and I'm going to add on an 8th note, taka-di. This is where I feel like takadini is not as successful, because I think it's easier if you're using tika tika to say, like, yeah, take one of the TTs and take a tika tika and cut it in half. So take a tika and take a T. And you can do T tika, or you can do tika T, tika T, tika T. And that is so easy to understand, right? You have 2 TTs, you take one, a T, and you have tika tika, take a tika, T tika, or tika T. Takadimi does make sense, but it's like the number thing I was talking about earlier. The kids have to know what part of takadimi you're taking, rather than just saying take 2 16th notes, right? So in this instance, I think that the tika tika system is so much simpler and so much easier for kids. But do I still teach takadimi? Yes. Okay, so anyway, once we've done this, we talk through that merging, we do whatever, and the kids are usually looking at me like, uh-huh. Okay, so then I'll show them some examples, and I might do some, here, let me get you another clean screen to show you. So then I take some examples. Let me get another color. Not red. Who wants red? I'll do this fun little blue. Okay, so I might write out a rhythm. So I've written out ta-di, ta-di, taka-di-mi, ta, which is great. But what if I wanted to add that 8th note and 16th note combination? Now I have ta-di, ta-di-mi, taka-di-mi, ta. Because see, you've got ta-di. This is the first half of this one is ta, and we're taking the second half of taka-di-mi. So we've got ta-di, ta, ta-di-mi, taka-di-mi, ta. Let me do another one. Let me do ta-di-mi, ta-di-mi, ta-di-ta. So in the second row, we have ta-di-mi, ta-di-mi, ta-di-ta. Great, okay. Let's do the flip of the other different kind we've got. So let me just change these out. So toddy, takady, takadimi, ta. Ooh, I love that. And then the next row, let's do takady, talk. I'm going really fast. This is messy. I'm not usually this messy with my kids. Okay, so takadi, takadi, takadimi, ta. Right, and you just go through. And my little tricks to help kids remember are, I say ta-dini. How are you going to remember that? I think it's like ta-di, but ta-di is wearing his backpack. Ta-di, ta-dini, ta-dini. Because on the back half, you have this extra stuff. So I say it's like ta-dini, it looks like a ta-di at first, but he's wearing his backpack. Ta-dini, ta-dini, ta-dini. Okay, and then with takadi, it looks like someone was writing takadini and they just didn't finish it. So it starts with a takadini, but it just ends with D. Takadi, takadi. That's like the silly way that I help kids remember it, but it does help a little bit. I don't dwell on this though, because if I again fought this so much that I'm like, you must get the language, I would be missing the point of I want them to learn the rhythm and I want them to be able to apply that. So instead, I give them some sample words. And I have a few different options here of things that I have used. I like to use food. I use food a lot in my classroom. And so let me show you one of the things I might do. So I give them a board that looks kind of like this. It has just 8 different boxes. The 8 different boxes have really light colored numbers in them. But I give them a little box and then I write out the words that the things that we have. We have a ta, we have a ta-di, we have a takadini. Okay, and then we have our newbies, Taadini, and we have Takadi. Except we're not going to call them by those things. Let's give them some other names. Let's come up with some fruit names. And usually up on the board, I'll give them other options. So I give them options like, okay, grape is okay. Pear, well, I like pear. Peach, that's another one good. Let's go with pear. Okay, and then for toddy, another one that would be really easy would be apple. So if I wanted to write ta-di, ta-di, ta, I could do apple, apple, pear, pear, right? Takadini, you got to go with watermelon, right? Okay, I am going fast and this is messy and I don't have my actual normal stylus, so I'm like trying to write and I'm sorry, it's messy. Okay, ta-dini. Okay, this one I just have to do, my favorite is blueberry. I love blueberries. Okay, and then takadi. Okay, we got some options. Apricot, clementine, mandarin, tangerine, honeydew. You know what? I'm going to go with clementine. Okay. Ooh, that's messy. I'm so sorry. Okay. So let me write out and we're going to make a little fruit salad. Okay. So I've got, let's see. I'm going to start with apple, clementine, and then I think, okay, watermelon. So the top row is apple, clementine, watermelon. And then I would have them go through and read that with me. The bottom row, and I'd probably have to do it a couple times until they get it. Okay, the bottom row, I'm going to write it out. You got to figure out what the foods are. Okay, so what I am writing, because I would say that to kids, but I'm not going to make you actually figure it out. It's also maybe kind of hard to see. So what I've written in the bottom row is blueberry, watermelon, blueberry, pear. So then I've got apple, clementine, watermelon, blueberry, watermelon, blueberry, pear. Let me try that again. Apple, clementine, watermelon, blueberry, pear. Probably to make this easier, I would do a set of 8 choices and only use either the blueberry or the clementine. I wouldn't mix them. Mixing them is when kids start getting confused. I would probably do one set of all blueberry examples, mixed in like, so apple, apple, blueberry, watermelon, blueberry, watermelon, blueberry, pear, right? And then the next time through, I do an example with just clementine. So like watermelon, watermelon, clementine, clementine, watermelon, clementine, apple, pear. And I do just different options for that. So then they are seeing the notation, but are remembering the food words. And we're putting those in and playing around with them. I would do fruit. I have several different categories where I have written down combos and things that I like. So another set that I like to do sometimes is Disney. And there are some that work really well, right? Like some categories work really well and have great things. When I'm going through and brainstorming what these are, because I do all this brainstorming stuff, so I have a set of words before kids walk into my room. Because if I wait until they walk into my room, God help us, I'm not going to be able to figure out the rhythms while I'm also trying to manage, 28 kids or whatever. So I went through and found, so here's some Disney options for Ta. For one side, you've got Belle, Jane, Stitch, Meg. For Toddy, you've got Jasmine, Elsa, Raya, Simba. For Takadimi, for Tika Tika, you have Pocahontas, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Esmeralda. Those all work pretty well. For Taadini, you have Prince Eric, Prince Charming. I don't like that one as well. It's hard to say it quickly. Prince Eric, that works okay. And then for Takadi, you have Ariel, Peter Pan, Merida, Tinkerbell. The problem is that if you come up with a word that has an anacrusis in it, like Tiana, it's not Tiana. You don't say, oh, look, it's Princess Tiana. You say Tiana. And the emphasis in the word is on the on and the Tiana. The T is like a pickup into the word. So Tiana doesn't work, but other ones do. So that's why it's fun to like go through and pre-select words that you could pull out and use. So if I did the Disney version of the rhythm I currently have up, it would be something like, oh gosh, now I gotta like, hold on. I gotta think about which one I'm gonna use. Okay. It would be like Jasmine, Jasmine, Ariel, Cinderella, Prince Eric, Cinderella, Prince Eric, Belle, right? So like you could go through and do that. I also have a set, of course, because I'm a nerd, I could do something like this. Death Star, BB-8, Princess Leia, Stormtrooper, Princess Leia, Stormtrooper Droid, right? Like I have a list for Star Wars, I have fruit, I have Disney. So depending on what you want them to do, you can have some preset words. And then instead of focusing on just the rhythm and getting caught up on is it the taka or the dini or the whatever, they're just thinking about characters and they're thinking about words, they're putting them together. It simplifies, but they're still looking at the notation. They're just thinking in a different way. And then you can easily transfer to a pitched instrument, to a not pitched instrument, to body percussion. You can have them perform these right away. And thinking about those sample words is less tricky for their brain than thinking about the rhythms. Another thing you could do, but this takes more time, is you could give them those 5 words or those 5 patterns. So you could give them a ta, a tadi, takadimi. You could give them tadimi and takadi. You could give them a theme and say like weather or transportation or states or something else, and have them come up with words. States, Maine, Arkansas, that's a great one for Takadi. Texas, great. Missouri is not, because there's a pickup in there. M is the pickup to Missouri, right? Kansas works great, but Minnesota works great, right? But there are some where it'd be a little tricky. So you'd have to go through and let them work, and then you'd have to explain. And anytime you have a kid who comes up with a word with an anacrusis in it, like Louisiana, it's not Louisiana, right? It's Louisiana, and that, first of all, that's 5 sounds. We don't want 5 syllables. But if you have someone who comes up with an anacrusis, then they say, "Oh my gosh, you came up with a super great word, but we got to put it in the honorable mentions category because it's the way we say it. It doesn't really fall on that." And then usually, if they give me a word like banana, and I'm like, "It's not banana, it's banana." It's not banana. And if you write it out like with this notation, it's going to sound like and feel like banana, and that's not how we usually say the word. So like, and then I say honorable mention, good work, can't use it, but thanks so much. Right. So backing up, if we're going to introduce these 16th note, 8th note pairs, like I said, you need to have prerequisite information of 16th notes. You need to be able to do flagged 8th notes, or at least know that your 8th notes can move. And then you have to have the ability to put them together in different combinations. I manually show them how you can move them, change them. And again, based on your syllable system, this might be easy, it might not. But I tend to show them, try it, and then quickly switch to sample words so that they are now thinking of the word and they're putting words into different combinations and not thinking so much about the syllables, because if they get caught up on the syllables, it defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. Okay, I hope this gave you some ideas for 16th note, 8th note combinations, and gave you some ideas about what you could do if you wanted to. Like I said, it's not perfect, and do we even need to teach them this anyway? I don't know, because like I said, this is pretty complicated. It takes a lot of brain power and a lot of time, whereas you could be spending it doing experiences like playing the recorder, playing the ukulele, playing the drums, playing whatever, singing songs, doing games, moving, create, like there's so many other things you could be doing. Is this content worth it? I don't know. Maybe, but like if they're going to go on to secondary, if they applied in your classroom, great, and you know that they're going to apply it, great. But if they go on to secondary things, you know that those elementary and middle school band teachers, they start them on whole notes and half notes and quarter notes. When are they going to get to these single 8th note, 8th note and 16th note combinations? Never. Like years later. Like, when is that going to happen? They have to be able to play 16th notes and tongue 16th notes on their instrument before they can ever do this, and that's going to take a long time. So is it worth us pulling out time from our curriculum or emphasizing more in our curriculum this specific thing, making sure they really got it, if they're not going to apply it for a super long time in their applied instrument later? I personally don't think so, which is why I don't take a lot of time on this, because I know that when they get to their next placement, that they don't even play 16 notes for a super long time. And then when they do, those teachers complain that we didn't teach it. I'm like, we did teach it. You just don't have them read it. There is learning loss because you're not having them just read and play and do body percussion for like 3 minutes at the beginning of your rehearsal. Instead, you're having them play whole note. Anyway, that's the whole thing. And I have so many friends who are band teachers, and it's like fun to, I'm not gonna say complain, but it's like fun to talk to them about it. And they're like, yeah, like we should be doing read. Anyway, it's a good time. But that's a whole different conversation, so we're not gonna go there. But I hope this gave you some ideas about how you could start this conversation about 16th note and 8th accommodations and what you could do and some things you could start. It is fun. It is more cerebral for them, so they have to stop and think. And so it's not as experiential. So if they're used to that, it's going to be a little bit of a shift. But it is fun. It is worth it. So I don't know, maybe this gave you a few more ideas. If this did give you some ideas, great. Please leave a comment and tell me. And you're like, hey, this is cool, and I'll try it. Or I tried it, it didn't work, or I tried it and I modified. I'd love to learn that. If you do something else that you're like, this is what I do and it works really well, cool, please let me know. If you're like, David, what do you mean you do this with upper elementary? This is preschool. I teach this really, I would love to learn your ways. Please teach me your ways. Anyway, I'm going to stop here. Like I said, if you're interested in rhythm syllable systems, I wrote a whole blog post about it. I linked that on the links page. There's more to come. There's more to do next week. So I hope you'll come back next week for Musical Mondays. Next Monday on the 17th. And if not, I'll see you the next time you join us. All right. Have a great night, everyone.